What was really helpful to me was Rex saying that all three books, Change Your Space, Change Your Culture, Humanizing the Education Machine, and this one, are really the same story. It's moving into a way that has become counterproductive, inefficient, toxic. Something has to be done, hence the burning platform, which is really the way to get attention. And that is in fact where we started, with the coming storm, or snakes on a plane, however you want to say it. But, in other words, that chapter has to very vividly grab the reader by the throat and saying, your life depends on this. Not just your life, but national life depends on this. And we all know the stats, we all know the Dr. Royson, the GDP numbers, all of the graphs that we've been looking at. Well, all of that is loaded in there. And so it comes out of the chute like a bucking bull. And that's the point of it, is to get the reader's attention. So we start with that.
So after that idea of this coming storm, setting the stage, and sort of breaking down the walls between the education problems and engagement issues there, and burning platform there, and the workplace burning platforms there, like there are many connections points between them. So it's not 100% only K12 and no one else can read it, but it is trying to unify themes between several of the books. We decided that it would be nice to be sort of a prologue within the beginning, where it's telling the story, giving that hook, and that we like the day in the life, and also some youth or student supplemental notes within, and describing in the beginning of the book that there are notes specifically related to young people throughout this book, or even a side separate supplemental, because it's not just about teaching, you know, all the old white guys in the building, sorry everyone, how to do this, but there is honor to be said for the genius of the youth. So that leads us into one of our first chapters, kind of this theme of out of the mouths of babes. So what do you naturally come out of the womb wanting to do and be that we somehow beat out of you in education and then beat out of you in the workplace? You know, children aren't born hating other races. They're not born hating to learn. But we do that, and we do it in work, and we do it in the education system. In that, it brings us to the idea of, you know, who are your heroes and the thought leaders that you'd want to point to, and who are the future travelers. So we definitely want to pick on some of those stories, but also the youth leaders, and I can't lift all of this, we should have taken all of it, but the youth leaders too. So what makes a leader? Is a leader, yes, there's leaders who are leaders because of position of power, but there are young people that we could talk about in the book that are leaders in their own right. Talk about, there was a child, young guy, who started a shelter, an animal shelter, in his garage. So that was a young person with a cool idea and enough empowerment to go do something that probably has a decent sense of well-being because he has a purpose and he's doing something to help his broader community, and he's living out this hopefully higher form of self-actualization. So we also had this interesting thought around, you know, again, as kids, you haven't been trained to hate work, you haven't been trained to hate well-being yet. So we said, okay, why do we hate the well-being transformation? Maybe it's because we're not starting it younger, we're not allowing it to start younger, getting out of the way of it when children want to play in the classroom and be creative and talk to one another. So again, talking through leadership here and getting to, okay, so this is where we are, how do we move forward? And this idea came about of the new Renaissance. So instead of, you know, learning 2.0 or whatever it is, 2.0 or an iteration, the idea of a Renaissance, which is a rebirth, a reawakening, and a rediscovery of ancient wisdom too. So what might our new Renaissance be if it happened in this century? Learning from past masters, ancient medicine, moving forward, and a Renaissance encompasses all things. Art, culture, politics, architecture, and health and all aspects. So in the New Renaissance, we thought that a bunch of it would be about, so we had the Industrial Revolution, and that is ending, has ended, but what will work look like? So a major theme in all of our work discussion so far, and in the education discussion, has been around, you can automate a lot of what we do today, and that is not going away. You can automate surgeries and legal profession. So in the next several hundred years, what will the human element be? And I feel like that's what our Renaissance needs to be about, deciphering what that human element is, because for centuries and centuries, we're repeating the same cyclical pattern of breaking things and repeating it, and trying to strive and nudge and pull towards what our human element is and what we're put on the earth for. So talking that through about how what may be the human element is that mastery that you can unlock in children and yourselves to bring your best self to work. So how to create a place that allows for mastery, and talking about, I'll bring up the college spread here as an idea too. We were discussing how the workplace, many of these workplaces look a little bit like college. People keep talking about the fun, and then college kind of in the middle, and younger than that, a theme in the K12 is that the kids talk about how their school looks like a college campus now, how they're being treated more like adults. So it's like college age, that defining timeline, and these big siloed structures are kind of melding out, and college is spreading. So that university mindset is spreading. And then definitions.
With this chapter, we were looking at defining wholeness and looking at mental health and what that means in the elementary school. And so we wanted to come up with new definitions of what that was, and we looked at engagement and the components of flow and components of well-being. And one of the things that we liked was the stress chart that was in the book. And some of the things that I especially like are Michelle Kinder and the Momentous Institute, which is covered in the education book. But the Austin ISD has put together a program on social and emotional learning. And they've kind of broken down what that means into self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and skills for those relationship skills, so that we could add that into our mental health picture, what that could look like socially and emotionally.
Cool.
So from there we would move to what does well-being cost, because it's something that's not talked about in schools at all. That conversation does not exist. Nobody talks about, healthy eating other than the little sections, and exercise and what it means. So we would get into that whole conversation, plus taking the fact that these are public dollars. So it's not a corporation choosing to do it. As, okay, my funds are quite limited. How do I allocate some to funding? And then getting rid of the false, information out there about what it really costs. And then we would move over to metrics, because schools measure everything on test scores, which is the failure of the education system, is that it's all about test scores. So changing that conversation to create what we're calling a well-learning dashboard. What is it that would work for kids to help them learn better, and work for the teachers and the staff that are there that would help them perform better every day. And then we kind of touch a little bit on some of the problems of schools today, the linear and siloed nature of schools. If I talk about office buildings, you all can come up with different ideas, but if I say classroom, you all think of this four-walled room with a chalkboard in the front and a door and desk all lined up. So how do you get out of that mindset? How do you stop thinking of time of day? Again, everybody thinks of classroom at school, you go 7 to 2, whereas that's not the future of education. That's not the present of education, to be honest. And then how do you start teaching to diversity? I made the comment last night, I said there's a beautiful video talking about how we teach kids to be all violins, but you need every instrument in an orchestra. Mm-hmm. So how do you bring that diversity from the well-being point of view? Because if you're able to talk to kids in the way that they learn best and the way that they feel more comfortable, then they're going to learn that much better. So it was talking about that and trying to get away from what the issues of schools are today. So then we go back to the Renaissance.
Yeah, because that idea of, multiple, not just multiple violins, but teaching diversity, the more individuals within the system can be bringing their best self to whatever it is they're doing, and breaking down that idea that learning only happens from, K12, and then you go to work, breaking that down and allowing that to also influence the architecture and the spaces and how we would need to design and rethink spaces, again, instead of just a classroom or a work building or an office, but community spaces and how this new renaissance might build itself out.
Yeah, and I have to point out, Abdul and Maria's kids go to school here. So then from that we move into the nudge. You know, what are the little things that we can start? And again, we too talked about it comes from each person, each individual. That's why we want to look at it from the point of view. We struggled a long time to figuring out who the reader of this book was. You know, I'm sure, like you guys said, it's like, who are we writing it for? And we kept trying to get it down to the most individual level so that it could go on to make a difference. So again, it goes into the nudge, you know, creating safe environments to help kids learn and creating a nudge culture so every person is empowered to make change, whatever, however small that change is, to start changing the whole mindset of the whole building. And then we have some examples of things that we think, you know, people that are doing it right, that people should look at. Examples like the Delancey House in San Francisco that are changing the way that those people coming out of prison are doing. The Link Project, this is a great project from Debbie Ray and the Texas Christian University. Every kid goes to school and they have 45 minutes of class, 20 minutes of free play, 45 minutes of class, 20 minutes of free play. That's their day. And then they teach them also how to interact with each other and how to respect each other. And free play, I mean, there's no playgrounds where they go and I have to climb and go down a slide. It's like a pool of water where the kids go and convene and do it. It's hills where they roll down and they come back up. It's all about them making their own choices. The diverse lounge, obviously we saw it in Dallas, you know, the power that it gives because of oral voice to students. And then other ones, you know, edible gardens, that's a huge movement in schools. And like Naperville School is one of the highest performing schools in the United States, and what they do is they have 0-hour exercise, and all the kids come in the morning and they exercise, and their test scores are through the roof, their achievement scores are through the roof, so there you go.
So the close, we're here.
The closing.
All right, everybody close your eyes for a minute, okay? I'm going to take you back to where you started as a child in the classroom. And then fast forward that to today, right? And what you know about it not being about a classroom, but about what the future is going to look like for children and how they're going to interact, what it's going to be like, so that when they walk by a space, they think, oh, I want to stop and learn in there. I want to stop and interact over there. And that is what the future of learning is all about, is being able to pick opportunities, pick experiences, and be able to learn there. Okay, you can open your eyes now. They'll be, all of you that are doing meditation at the same time as I was talking to you. But moving into the transformation process and being able to imagine what it's going to be like. So that is really the end of what this event is about, is being able to give the gift to the reader to imagine what the future looks like. And to take this Renaissance process and this evolving process into what the future is going to look like. So almost give them an imaginative, as well as giving them the metrics, the examples, and the opportunities for them to imagine what the nudge could look like throughout those opportunities.
All right. Great job.